For 50 years, the flying car has been the most broken promise in technology. Every decade, someone stands on a stage, shows a rendering, and says it will be ready in 5 years. Then nothing ships. The companies burn through their funding. The prototypes crash during demos. The regulatory approvals never come. The founders move on. And the flying car stays exactly where it has always been. In the future, perpetually 5 years away, forever almost here, but never quite arriving. Mahler International spent over 40 years and reportedly over $100 million developing the Skycar. It never flew freely. Terrafugia, a company started by MIT aeronautics graduates, promised a road-legal flying car for years. It changed ownership multiple times, got acquired by a Chinese automaker, and never delivered a consumer product. Aeromobile in Slovakia has been showing prototypes since 2013. Still no deliveries. PAL-V in the Netherlands built a flying car that technically works. It is both road legal and flight capable. But sales have been minimal, and the product requires a full pilot's license to operate. Dozens of companies, hundreds of millions of dollars, decades of promises, and almost nothing you can actually buy, fly, and own. Then a small team in Sweden decided to stop trying to make a car fly. They decided to make a drone carry a person. And that single decision changed everything. The company is called Jetson. It was founded by Tomasz Patton, a Polish-born engineer who had previously helped build the Volonaut Aero bike, a jet-powered flying motorcycle that went viral because people thought the footage was computer-generated. Patton understood something that most flying car companies missed. The reason flying cars kept failing was not because the technology didn't exist. It was because every company was trying to solve two impossible problems at once. Build something that drives on roads and flies through the air. That means you need wheels and propellers, road safety certification and aviation certification, a chassis that handles highway speeds, and a frame light enough to generate lift. Every compromise you make for the road hurts the aircraft. Every compromise you make for the air hurts the car. The result is a vehicle that does both things badly and costs a fortune to certify for either. Patton's team asked a different question. What if we don't build a car at all? What if we just build the flying part? The result was the Jetson 1. And it looks nothing like a flying car. It looks like a massive drone with a seat bolted in the center. 4 arms extend from an aluminum and carbon fiber frame. 2 electric motors sit on each arm, 8 motors total. Each motor drives a propeller that generates vertical lift. The pilot sits in an open cockpit in the middle with no doors, no windshield, no roof. 2 joystick controllers sit on either side of the seat. You push forward to go forward, pull back to slow down, tilt to turn. The flight computer handles everything else. The thousands of micro-adjustments per second that keep 8 motors balanced, compensate for wind gusts, and prevent the kind of sudden attitude changes that would throw an untrained person out of the sky. That flight computer is the reason the Jetson 1 exists as a consumer product and not as a death trap. Traditional helicopters require hundreds of hours of training because the pilot is manually controlling rotor pitch, collective input, cyclic input, anti-torque pedals, and throttle simultaneously. It is one of the most difficult manual tasks in all of aviation. The Jetson 1 removes all of that. The pilot provides direction. The computer provides stability. If you can use a video game controller, you can fly this machine. That is the design intent. And it is what makes the next part possible. Under Federal Aviation Regulation Part 103, the FAA defines an ultralight vehicle as a single-seat aircraft that weighs no more than 254 pounds empty, carries a limited amount of fuel, and does not exceed 55 knots, roughly 100 kilometers per hour. If your aircraft meets those criteria, you do not need a pilot's license. You do not need to register the aircraft. You do not need a medical certificate. You do not need any formal training. The regulation was written decades ago for hang gliders and powered parachutes. Simple, slow, recreational aircraft that posed minimal risk to the broader airspace system. Nobody who drafted Part 103 was imagining an 8-motor electric VTOL with autonomous stabilization and obstacle detection. But Jetson's engineers designed the one to fit inside those limits. Every engineering decision, the weight, the speed cap, the single seat, the battery capacity, was made with Part 103 in mind. The regulatory loophole wasn't discovered after the product was built. The product was built around the loophole. That was the strategic decision that separated Jetson from every flying car company that came before. Those companies tried to build the most impressive vehicle possible and then fight for regulatory approval afterward. Jetson designed the most flyable vehicle that regulations already allowed. No approval battle. No years of certification delays. No government committees debating whether it was safe enough. The rules already existed. Jetson just built something that fit inside them. But here is where the story of the Jetson 1 shifts from an engineering achievement to a business reality. Because the same regulatory category that lets you fly without a license also puts a cage around what flying actually looks like. Part 103 does not allow you to fly over congested areas. No cities, no towns, no neighborhoods. You cannot fly at night. You cannot fly in clouds, fog, or poor visibility. You cannot enter controlled airspace, the zones around airports and flight corridors, without prior authorization. And you cannot carry passengers. The Jetson 1 is a single-seat vehicle. If you add a second person, you are outside Part 103, and suddenly you need everything the category was designed to avoid: a license, registration, airworthiness certification, and a medical clearance. So what does owning a Jetson 1 actually look like? You take it to a rural property, an open field, or a designated flying area. You fly in daylight, in clear weather, in uncontrolled airspace, by yourself, for about 20 minutes. Then you land. The battery is dead. You plug it in. You wait. That is the experience. And if that sounds anticlimactic, remember this: you just flew. You lifted off the ground under electric power, felt the wind on your face, saw the earth drop away beneath you, and controlled your path through the air with your hands. Almost no human being in history has done that outside of a military cockpit or a commercial airline window. 20 minutes in the air is 20 minutes more than most people will ever experience. The company originally built prototypes and early units in Sweden. But when the time came to scale production and begin real deliveries, Jetson moved its headquarters to California. That was not a lifestyle decision. The American market offered something no European aviation framework could match: Part 103. In the European Union, there is no equivalent ultralight category that allows this type of vehicle to be flown without certification. The regulatory path in Europe would have taken years and cost millions before a single customer could legally take off. In the United States, Jetson could deliver a flying vehicle and the customer could fly it the same week. America's regulatory framework, written decades ago for a different era of aviation, became the competitive advantage that made the Jetson 1 commercially viable. The price is approximately $148,000, less than a Porsche 911, less than a Tesla Model S Plaid, less than many luxury SUVs parked in American driveways. For a machine that flies, that price positions the Jetson 1 not as a billionaire's toy, but as an expensive recreational vehicle for the same market that buys boats, sports cars, and weekend track machines. And the demand confirmed it. According to the company, the Jetson 1 is sold out through 2027. Every production slot for the next several years has been claimed. One of the first delivered units went to Palmer Luckey, the tech entrepreneur who created Oculus VR and sold it to Meta for $2 billion. Luckey took delivery of his Jetson 1 at his property in California and flew it publicly, sharing the footage. That moment mattered more than any marketing campaign the company could have run. A billionaire who could buy literally any vehicle on Earth chose a $148,000 flying machine from a small company and flew it with a grin on his face. That is a product endorsement that no amount of advertising can manufacture. But there are real questions that the excitement does not answer. Insurance is one. How do you insure a flying vehicle with no registration and no pilot certification requirement? Traditional aircraft insurance assumes the pilot is trained and the aircraft is registered. Neither applies here. Specialty insurers are starting to offer policies, but the market is new, the data is thin, and premiums are likely high for a vehicle category with zero historical safety record. Maintenance is another. The Jetson 1 has 8 electric motors, 8 propellers, a complex flight computer, battery packs, and a carbon fiber airframe. All of these components have finite lifespans. Who services them? What certifications do the technicians need? What happens when a motor bearing fails at month 13 and the warranty has expired? The product exists. The service ecosystem does not. Not yet. And then there is the question the FAA has not yet publicly addressed. What happens when thousands of these machines are flying over American fields and ranches simultaneously? Part 103 was written when ultralights were rare, slow, and few. If the Jetson 1 sells tens of thousands of units, and the demand suggests it could, the FAA may revisit the regulation. Tighter weight limits, speed restrictions, mandatory training, required registration. Any of those changes could fundamentally alter the Jetson 1's market position overnight. The product was built around a regulatory category. If the category changes, the product's core advantage disappears. That is not a reason to dismiss the Jetson 1. It is a reason to understand it clearly. This is a first-generation product in a category that has never existed before, operating inside a regulatory framework that was not designed for it, being sold to customers with no flight training in a market with no insurance standards and no maintenance infrastructure. Every one of those things will be resolved eventually. But right now, buying a Jetson 1 requires a tolerance for uncertainty that goes beyond the price tag. And still, people are buying them. Every slot through 2027 is taken. The wait list is growing. And somewhere in California, a man who built Oculus VR is flying one over his property before breakfast. The flying car failed for 50 years because every company tried to build a car that could also fly. 2 problems, 2 regulatory frameworks, 2 sets of engineering compromises, infinite complexity, no product. Jetson threw away the car, built a drone with a seat, designed it to fit inside a regulation written for hang gliders, priced it below a Porsche, moved to California, and started shipping. The flying car is not coming. It arrived. It just doesn't look like anyone expected. It looks like a drone. It sounds like a swarm of bees. It flies for 20 minutes. And nobody asked you for a license.